Greetings all. General Hodges, Ben, thank you for inviting me to contribute to this important and useful workshop on military mobility. It's good to hear that so many participants are in attendance today. I would of course have preferred meeting you all in real life, but unfortunately the coronavirus has flared up again. Although the current crisis has caused great sadness and suffering, it also underscores the importance of military mobility. In times of crisis, armed forces support society, and allies come together in a joint effort to tackle the virus by rail, road, river, air, or sea. For example, we provided host nation support for the redeployment of Allied troops after the cancellation of Exercise Defender 20, for which preparations and troop movements were well underway earlier this year. Another example where coronavirus and military operations have converged can be found at the European Air Transport Command, the EATC, at Eindhoven Air Force Base. In January, EATC team members were very busy evacuating fellow nationals from China, delivering essential medical supplies, and transporting patients and military personnel. The COVID-19 effort has so far resulted in over 185 missions and almost 3,000 flight hours carried out by the shared EATC air transport fleet. And these figures illustrate the solidarity among our allies. As you may know, the Netherlands is strongly committed to military mobility. It is an issue that we consider crucial to successful defense and deterrence in the European theater. From a military point of view, the renewed attention for the security and safety of our territory obviously meant we needed to refocus on things which hadn't been top of mind since the end of the Cold War. At the same time, the world is no longer the same as it was back then, of course. Membership of NATO and the EU has largely increased. New and emergent security threats are spreading along the European borders, and conflicts are increasingly fought digitally and via hybrid means. This means our armed forces need to be more adaptive and flexible than ever before. It is all about speed and effective maneuvering. The Netherlands, being a small country, has always emphasized international trade. We depend on it, and we have therefore developed a strong logistical infrastructure network for trade and commerce. However, we became aware that there seemed to be quite a difference between commercial and military transports through Europe. The commercial ones usually being a lot faster, and this needed to change. And so in 2017, our former Minister of Defense, Janine Hennis-Plasgaard, called upon European nations that the obstacles to cross-border military transport need to disappear. This was the political starting point of events that eventually led to the PESCO project on military mobility, with the Netherlands as lead nation and 25 EU member states joining. This PESCO project is a platform at the political strategical level, where EU chiefs talk to each other directly and discuss what needs to be done nationally to improve military mobility. Within NATO, military mobility has become an important topic within the broader field of enablement of SACEUR's area of responsibility. And within both the EU and NATO, a number of political commitments were agreed upon. One of them is to develop national plans on military mobility and give their implementation high priority. The focus of the Dutch national plan is the concept of the Netherlands as a transit and host nation. We realized and acknowledged that our contribution to European security lies, in part, in providing transit and host nation support to sending nations, from the ports of Rotterdam and Flushing, and via Eindhoven Air Base to Belgium and Germany, and vice versa. To support military movements, the Netherlands intends to establish 3 multimodal corridors through its territory. In the future, all relevant military movements, including the transport of dangerous goods, will take place via these 3 multimodal corridors, 3 routes that each include an option by road, rail, and inland waterways. This will greatly simplify the planning process because all parties involved, ourselves and the sending nations, will know what to expect beforehand. This approach will increase transparency and predictability and will allow for long-term agreements with the local suppliers and partners that our armed forces depend on for host nation support. The pursuit of such an overall strategic goal poses several implementation questions, which we have been dealing with for some time already. And let me address the most important ones. Firstly, it's about infrastructure. The roads, tunnels, bridges, and so on along the routes all need to comply with the established international standards. This requires close cooperation between the Netherlands Ministry of Defense and the Netherlands Ministry of Infrastructure, because ultimately all infrastructure is civilian infrastructure. Secondly, rules and regulations. This is partly about simplifying procedures, but mostly it's about legislation. Transporting dangerous goods, for example, requires a lot of paperwork, both nationally and internationally. The idea is to obtain permanent approval for military transports of a range of dangerous goods along these multimodal corridors. For the Netherlands, this means that we have to reach agreement with local authorities and safety regions. Thirdly, command and control. To grant entry requests within a matter of days, we need to be efficient and we need to be effective after notification by the sending nation. To this end, we have established a 24/7 single national point of contact for all incoming host and transit requests directly linked to the new Territorial Operational Center. From this central operational hub, matters are now forwarded to the relevant national authorities. Fourthly, logistic hubs. It does not suffice to have a point of debarkation and a point of embarkation. Our allied friends also need to eat, sleep, and top up. Therefore, a logistic hub will be established along each of the multimodal corridors I have just described. These hubs are being set up by and will be fully in line with the PESCO project network of logistic hubs, which is led by Germany. Lastly, digital innovation is key. Last Thursday, we presented the Defence Vision 2035. In short, the Defence Vision draws up a new profile for our armed forces. We have to digitalize and modernize. The same applies to military mobility. To achieve all this at the speed we are aiming for would be impossible if we continued using our current methods of planning. The Netherlands has therefore built the Interactive Host Nation Support System, IHNS, an innovative web-based planning tool to be used by all sending nations from 2021 onwards for the requests in the Netherlands. In short, statements of requirements are submitted in digital format. We communicate via the IHNS platform, and it shows when and where you have been granted permissions to carry out movements inside the Netherlands. In addition, we are currently developing a related system called iMobility to coordinate all military movements inside the Netherlands. This system is being designed for the operational level and will be connected to IHNS, And it is worth noting that HNS will be compatible with our national SAP system and the international NATO system called LogFAS. Ladies and gentlemen, you have heard me talk about the importance of military mobility and where we currently stand in this regard in the Netherlands. But as participants in this workshop, you also know that military mobility serves the interest of us all, in peacetime as well as during crisis. The current corona crisis teaches us that we should not wait and see. As allies, we must show solidarity in working together to make military mobility happen. The Netherlands has a responsibility as a transit and host nation, and we facilitate as a lead nation wherever possible. And I can assure you, our country will continue these efforts over the coming years in order to serve our shared interest. Thank you for your attention and have a great workshop.